8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Or who we thought they were.
Playoffs? We'll talk about playoffs.
We just talk about practice. We sitting here, I'm supposed to be the franchise player, and we're in here talking about practice.
NFL reactions with the Sports Memery. Week 12 of the NFL season is in the books, and once again, the Bucs with a disappointing loss. It looked like at times they could have done it, but man, this game was a 3-point game, but it was a all-out ass whooping. I mean, were you guys amazed at the final result of that game?
Absolutely. It was the biggest blowout 3-point loss I've ever seen in my 32 years of watching sports. I mean, it was crazy.
The Chiefs were playing like straight up Madden for the entire first half. Not just obviously the big Tyreek Hill plays, but man, Mahomes just did whatever he wanted. The entire game is awesome to watch.
Pour one out for anybody that was playing either Derrick Henry, Will Fuller, or Tyreek Hill this week. This was a monster week for just huge performances. Like you said, that reminded me, 200 yards in a quarter? What the fuck is that?
He was on pace at one point for 1,000 yards.
Yeah,
that's insane.
Honestly, it's embarrassing that the Bucs let up that much. And I know they made adjustments, like they started shutting him down later in the game. But Carlton Davis, like Jesus, after like the 5th play of him getting burned, how do you not immediately pull that guy and be like, "Hey, I think this guy needs help. He's getting burned on every single play."
Part of that was on Bowles, though, man. They made the right adjustments, but you can't put he's not an all-pro guy. You shouldn't be having a man up with a munchkin that runs a 4.2.
And how much talent does that defense have? I mean, the amount of they have studs at every level. Marcus, you said it. Drew, you said it. You got to have a guy at every level to be a good defense, and they check those marks. There is no excuse to have those many guys and not be able to produce. I mean, it falls squarely on Todd Bowles, like you said, Marcus.
Yep. Honestly, both the problems with the Bucs this year. There's so many to name. We talk about DVOA a lot in our podcast. They're still 4th ranked on this DVOA ranking. It's so bizarre. They put up good performances, but they just seem to just shit the bed at these awful moments. And you're right. They have this great defense. Like, you got to blame the coordinators. You got to blame the coaching at some point. I know Brady doesn't look great, but he seems like he's trying to do too much out there. I think they need to simplify it, because I don't know what I'm more impressed with. How horrible the Bucs were that last week, or just how incredible. This game reaffirmed just how great Kansas City is to me.
See, for me, what I saw was like a flaw that I'm all too familiar with as a Steelers fan is kind of like the inability to finish. There's ways to not let someone climb back in. We've seen it too many times where teams that you're just better than climb back in and not always win, but just get your heart rate up, man. Steelers fans die young because of all the late game finishes that we have. I think there's still a lot of question marks in Kansas City, man. They've got some players, some very talented guys on defense, but there's a lot of gaps over there. And I think that's for me, the biggest story coming out of that game.
Yeah,
Sure.
I think you hit the nail on the head as far as where the chink in the armor is coming from in Kansas City, and it's the defense. Which tells me if you have a good offense and you have a good defense, you can be formidable. And what do the Steelers have? They have a good defense, and they have enough offensive weapons to be able to put them up. If you would have told me a couple weeks ago that, do the Steelers really have a chance against Kansas City? I would have said no. But I'm coming around to it more and more. Their defense, again, kind of similar to Kansas or to Tampa Bay, where they have guys at every level. And I'm not about to blame Kansas City coaching because, Andy Reid is a Hall of Famer. But they got some things they need to square up in the back third of the regular season, no doubt.
Yeah. I just still think that no matter what happens, Mahomes can turn it on at any moment. We saw it in the playoffs last year. Even if they would have went down by 3 scores against the Bucs, he still would have won that game. And remember when he got the ball in his hands with what? It was just a little over 2 minutes left. Like, you'd be worried with any other player in that position. Wasn't even slightly worried. He had that scramble. Like he seems to get better every single week. He really is remarkable.
Well, you know, his 2-minute prowess is like, it's like Rodgers or Brady in his prime. Like, well, fuck, they're gonna win this game, you know?
Right.
I love the baseball pop-up slide. I mean, that's a stand-up double that you're sliding just for shits and gigs. You know?
He's the best sliding quarterback. There's a lot of baseball talent playing quarterback right now in the NFL, and it shows when they slide. Did you see that little sideline slide he did?
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, it was a little pop-up slide that you do at second base. You know, the throw's coming in, it's not close. You do a little pop-up slide. That's exactly what that was.
It was brilliant. So that game didn't really shock me at all. That game went down exactly as I kind of thought it would. But most surprising game of the week for me, San Francisco at Rams. I mean, I kept watching that score and I'm like, oh shit, this is so NFC West for this to happen. Sure enough, the Rams shit the bed. Just when you think it's such a weird season for the NFC West. How many times have you thought different teams were the best in that division? At first, it was the Seahawks. Like, oh, the Seahawks are going to take it all. Then they look ridiculously fallible. Then the Cardinals pop up, and they look better than ever. Kyler Murray looks like the MVP. Then the Rams come through, and they blast the Bucs. And then they fucking lose it to the 49ers. Like, that division is – you never know what you're going to get with it.
I think betting division games is obviously just the worst. It's so hard because everyone just plays different. A lot of teams change their schemes and adapt in those matchups. But man, everyone gets pissed off. But I agree, man. Total fucking letdown there. And I know Brandon's pissed about this one.
I mean, so we're all big Sean McVay fans. We think he's going to coach in the league for 30 years. But what about that last 5-minute offense by him? They go 5 plays and out and 5 plays and out in a combined 4 minutes of the game. Like, you just cannot do that. That they're the offense just complete letdown. The defense did what it did, and that's why I just don't believe in the Rams. It has nothing to do with McVay, and it has everything to do with Goff. They should have won that game 2 or 3 times. And he got outgunned by Nick Mullins. Jesus.
Yep. Yeah, and believe it or not, the 49ers are weirdly still alive in the playoff race. It's fucking bizarre. Talk about great coaching, that division. Outside of Kingsbury, you guys know what I think about Kingsbury. It's the best coach division in the NFL.
Sometimes, I know Shanahan's guilty of it a lot too. I think some of these coaches, they just get a little too cute and get away from the basics, man, and just starts throwing too many wrenches in there, complicates the offense, and you just can't run efficiently.
Two nice weeks in a row for Cam Akers, though. I think that backfield is starting to solidify itself. I think the weapons are starting to come together. I think they got a nice little 2-headed tight end monster with Gerald Everett and Tyler Higbee. It honestly is going to fall on the shoulders of Goff, whether they're real pretenders or not.
From a fantasy perspective, don't trust anybody on that offense because yes, Cam Akers does look like the guy this week. Guess who looked like the guy last week from the receiving corps? Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp had a drive last week against the Bucs where he had 8 targets in one drive. He had like 6 targets this entire game. McVay is going to do that, though. He's never going to be predictable. So just when you think that Cam Akers is going to take over, you're going to see a big dose of Henderson for some reason. So that's what he does, man. He's constantly moving it around. He knows he doesn't have any one guy, so he uses that kind of to his advantage. And I feel like he will highlight guys certain games so that teams will game plan for him all week. And then he just takes them completely out of the equation. Who does that really well? Bill Belichick.
Yep.
And we saw that again this week.
Yes.
What another shocking game. Can we move over to that game? I can't wait to talk to JC because Marcus, what did JC say? Right at the end of our show, he's like, how are you guys not taking Arizona? Arizona's, only giving 1.5, so give me. And what did you and me say, Marcus? We're like, oh, fuck that game.
It's too scary. Like on paper, it's the Cardinals are going to roll them, but we can't talk about Bill Belichick enough and him listening to everyone else's plays, which is why he takes away their best player. But there's the Cardinals. They're very talented. They still need time to develop. There's just no way around that. And speaking of getting too cute, sometimes you just gotta force the ball to DeAndre Hopkins. Like, he's that good. I don't care who's taking him away. He's gonna own Stephon Gilmore. I think for me, the thing that got me the most hyped up in that game was the calls against Isaiah Simmons, man. I was not happy. I don't know if you guys saw his the second hit on Cam Newton that forced the game-winning kick. He's in bounds. What? He's like, oh, he hit him in the chin. Well, he's a runner. I that pissed me off. You guys know I have a big boner for Isaiah Simmons, but man, I was steaming.
That call was a makeup call for Cam Newton's entire career, because that guy's getting destroyed his entire career. But yeah, I agree. Those were some really bad, costly calls for the game flow too, by the way. And I love your point about Hopkins, because the games that they do force it into Hopkins' hands, and I'm not just saying this because he's fucking me over in fantasy week after week. They need to just start forcing it to Hopkins. I mean, when that's your guy, this is where I think that Cliff Kingsbury, he gets too cute. And I just don't like what I'm seeing out of his offensive game plans recently. Yeah, no,
I can't even disagree with you. It's you don't have to do it all game, but if you even if you give up a few drives, be like, hey, he will get his numbers today. The defense has to account for it in different manners to try and take it away. But when you just have an all-world guy, like, don't be a dickhead, dude. Just let him make the play. Let him end someone else's career.
The upset.
Are we getting to the territory where if New England makes it to the playoffs, they could be scary? Are we getting to that point where they could beat anyone? No. Okay, good. Me neither. I'm definitely not thinking that and getting Steeler Patriots flashbacks. Definitely not happening in my head.
There's zero chance they make the playoffs. If you look at some of these teams that are on the fringe, like the Ravens, I know the Ravens, they look terrible. They're going to get their asses kicked tomorrow by the Steelers, but their schedule right after that game is so easy. It's like a cakewalk. So I just don't see any scenario. You'd have to have a team like that just falls out of it, and there's no way that New England makes playoffs. There's no way.
Yeah, and New England's got a tough run, man. Even teams like the Chargers, they can really beat anyone on any day. But they've got a tough stretch. But yeah, I honestly, I think Dallas can give Baltimore an interesting run. They just have such a talented team. But I think they're still playing for Justin Fields. But no, Patriots definitely don't miss the playoffs.
Man, I agree with you. I don't think they make it into the playoffs. But if they did, and as a Steelers fan, I'm only scared of them and the Chiefs. I'm not scared of Tennessee or Buffalo or Cleveland. Miami's starting to get a little scary, but I mean, I might put the Patriots as the third most likely team to come out of the AFC right now.
No chance. For me as a Steelers fan, Buffalo scares me the most in the AFC. A very unpredictable team that can get it done on both sides of the ball. You have to respect what Josh Allen's doing, man. But that's another topic for another day.
In my mind, the Bills are the Cardinals of the AFC. They're Jekyll and Hyde. You have no idea what you're getting out of Josh Allen week to week. You have no idea what you're getting out of their defense week to week. I agree with you. I think Buffalo could beat anyone, but I think they could lose to anyone. Like, as a Steelers fan, I see our edge rushers pinning our ears back and strip sacking Josh Allen at least once or twice in that game.
What Buffalo consistently does in the fourth quarter, they make mistakes.
Yes, they do.
The game on the line, Josh Allen fumbles, right? And then a couple plays later, I might have this reversed, but then he throws this really bonehead pick. Like, just throw it away, dude. You got the game. They were winning by 10 points. And
their fourth quarter possessions before their final field goal, interception, fumble. 3 out of their 4 fourth quarter possessions were turnovers.
Well, the Chargers answered those turnovers. They almost matched those 3 turnovers with 2 of their own. But since we're going to talk about some overreactions, can we just fire Anthony Lynn already? Like, why are him and Gay still there? I can't hate on Anthony Lynn enough. Terrible clock management all the way down the stretch that cost him the game.
Well, because I'm the least humble person in the world, possibly. That's not an overreaction. I've been calling for Anthony Lynn's head and Vic Fangio's head all fucking year. I think Drew, you said it, and I think it's the completely logical statement. You got to give Anthony Lynn one off season with Herbert. That was your point, and I think that's a perfectly valid point. I think that's over. I mean, you've got a sample size enough on Anthony Lynn. Have you changed your tone on that at all?
Oh, absolutely. How many great rosters can you underperform with? 2 years in a row. Just last year, another great roster. Like offensively, they have so much firepower. They have arguably a top 5 quarterback who's going to just be great for years. Don't wait too long. Pull the trigger right now. This is a great. We got Derwin James coming back next year. Like Anthony Lindsay needs to be fired tomorrow. The end of that game, the end of that Bills game was embarrassing.
How do you let 20 seconds run off the clock like that?
They do a play with no timeouts. They're freaking idiots. Yeah. And it wasn't just that play. He has mismanaged the clock his entire career. He's a joke. He really is. He's a good coordinator as a head coach, as a guy that has to.
He's Todd Bowles. I mean, he is Todd Bowles. I mean, that's
he can't be in charge of everything. You know what I'm saying? He's not a guy that can oversee and make sure that everything's going right. He's a coordinator. He's good at he's a player's coach. He's really good at that, but he's not a head coach. Mm-hmm. He's not. Get rid of him.
Yeah, and I think with the right guy there, the Chargers are the Super Bowl contenders next year. You know, with the proper health. But man, he's going to waste some talent over there if they keep him.
I heard Marcus. You want to talk? So I love that. I love the Chargers as a sneaky good pick. If you're looking into team futures for 2021. But you and I were talking before the Overreaction podcast, and I think you have a great overreaction for an NFC team future. Do you want to tell Drew and the audience?
I have a couple of that. Are we talking about the next team, or are we talking about Drew's team?
We're talking about the next team. We're talking about the next team. Yeah.
So the team that I should be sneaky to get into the playoffs this year, who by the transitive property are better than the Chiefs, are the Atlanta Falcons. The team that we've been waiting to see for the last 3 years, man. So talented, and then as soon as Dan Quinn's gone, and I know the Raiders are inconsistent, but 43-6 is something impressive to do against the playoff team. But this is kind of the Falcons team that we've been it's been very letting us down for the last 2 or 3 seasons. Like, they're that talented.
Yeah, I mean, I think the reason I kind of led with this segue here is because why don't the Chargers get the hint that we're seeing from Houston? Why aren't the Chargers getting the hint we're seeing from Atlanta? There is the addition by subtraction is such a real thing, and I'm so on board with you with the Atlanta having the right pieces to actually be a really good team. A bad manager can absolutely just, whether it's sports or profession, a bad manager can drag down an entire team.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it should have happened a long time ago, to be honest. It's ridiculous, but the Raiders, that loss to Atlanta, oh my God, I've been saying it all year though. Gruden can put together some games, but he's just going to shit the bed like that. Bruce Arians is kind of similar. Bruce Arians is good at putting together little stretches, and then he just shits the bed. He did it with the Cardinals all too often, and that's what we're seeing with Gruden. This is the guy Gruden has always been, people. They have had an impressive year. I'm not going to take it away from the Raiders, but I don't think they're making the playoffs. I've looked at some other teams. I think the Ravens steal it from them.
Yeah. I know we're going to touch on that, but I still think they get in. Do you think
over who, Marcus? Over who are they jumping?
Are they going to do Ravens?
Our top. I'm talking about specific to our topic. But yeah, over the Ravens for sure. But talking about overreactions, dude, Gruden just might be one of those guys that doesn't delegate properly. Same thing with Arians, and that's why the long-term consistency over a season just gets lost because they're not delegating enough. They're taking too much on their plate, and then you're just ill-prepared for the following week. You got to be ready for the next team, even before you're playing this team, even in some fashion.
Good point. Derek Carr, who's honestly, he's turned around a season. The fact that he has not turned it over. Oh my God, those were some embarrassing turnovers. You see that pick six? Woo! Yeah. He wants to go back. That's one of those ones, you're in the shower, you're just like, oh, that's fucking bad. Ooh, man, that was bad.
I was watching. I was like the meme, the stick figure, poking the stick, do something to Josh Jacobs. Matt Ryan was like, anybody score. I was like, I didn't like guys going to have a player on a 40-point team and can't score shit.
Yeah, whew, man, if you started Derrick Henry this week, pour one out. Pour one out. Awful. But, go ahead.
Oh, no, nothing. I was just still laughing.
Yeah, well, I got one more topic I kind of want to talk about because these two teams kind of seem like I think they're rising to the top of the crop of the NFC. Who are you taking right now, the Packers or the Seahawks, if that game would go down on a neutral field?
Packers all day long. I don't think it's really even close. I mean, the Seahawks look beatable against the Eagles. They've looked beatable against the Vikings. They've gotten beaten by some bad teams this year. I just can't buy the Seahawks with that defense. Russ is cooking. He's cooking all right. But, man, that defense is so fallible. You're telling me that Aaron Rodgers isn't just going to rain fire on that defense? It's going to be bad.
It's going to kind of look like the first half of Mahomes against the Bucks. It's hard. I don't know if I can actually listen to an articulated argument about why Seattle can stop Green Bay or really stop anybody. They haven't stopped anybody.
Right.
So that was the easy question, and it all set up this question: Packers Saints. Because I mean, I know the whole Denver situation, but it really does look like that Saints defense has figured a few things out over the last couple of weeks.
I don't just think the Saints are better. I think they're a lot better than the Packers. Like I said, the Packers over the Seahawks. But I think the difference between the Saints and every other team in the NFL is just unreal. Now, assuming that Taysom Hill isn't going to be the guy in the playoffs, which God help him if he is, because he is not a quarterback. The guy's not a quarterback. They're running these gimmicky systems. It already got figured out by Denver. I mean, this is a guy that he cannot take your team forward. So if they can truly get Breeze back by week 15, they finish out strong, presumably get the number 1 seed. I think they'll destroy them in their second round. Now the Packers did win the first round, but it won't happen again.
It won't because, man, Saints are just the real deal. You know,
they've given up 28 points in the past 4 games. That is absurd. Now, again, I mean, they've played Nick Mullins and Nick Full or Kendall Hinton or whatever, but so they haven't played exactly light 'em up offenses, but that's impressive. I don't care who you're playing, letting up seven points a game in an NFL game over a quarter of a season. They
have the DVO ranked number 2 defense. When have you ever seen the Saints with this defense?
Yeah,
that's the thing is their offense is still electric, number 5th ranked according to DVOA, but a number 2 defense, like this team is special. I mean, they are. I think they are. Way ahead of every other team in the NFL, just straight up.
Yep.
I can't argue that. I've loved them, liked them a lot last year. They always find a way to get fucked over by the refs or by something crazy. It hasn't been panning out. No bad calls that ruin their season just yet, but there's plenty of time.
Well, God help them if the Vikings make the playoffs, because the Vikings have now knocked the Saints out of the playoffs 4 times. 4 times. They've only made the playoffs 7.
Last question I have from this past week. Did you take anything away from the NFC East teams? I mean, is there anything to say this team has solidified themselves after what we saw this past week?
I think honestly the whole NFC East should have 4 of the first 6 picks of the entire NFL. Like they're just terrible all around. It was nice to see Alex Smith complete a ball deeper than 8 yards down the field. But Washington is sneakily starting to become like the Niners teams that, and even the Chiefs teams that Alex Smith played on for most of his career, like a dominant defense and a solid run game. Just let him not make mistakes, and it's a pretty sound way to win football games.
Antonio Gibson looked good. I mean, I've been pumping out Washington in the preseason, and they've been my pick for the last month to win that division. But I think you're starting to see some guys show up on that offense. Not Alex Smith, but I think Logan Thomas is becoming a top 10 tight end. Terry McLaurin is becoming a top 10 wide receiver. And then you got Antonio Gibson, who not a big enough sample size to probably put him in the top 10 yet, but he looks like a guy drastically on the rise. So I do like the offensive weapons that are starting to come out. Drew, when we did our big DVOA a few podcasts ago, we just said, can they be top 25? Can they be a top 20 offense? They don't need to be top half of the league. They just can't be 31. Yeah.
Their defense is special, man. I honestly, I really hope something turns for the better with Riverboat Ron, because I think he has a special roster. I mean, honestly, they have so much talent on defense. If they can just go out and get like a good quarterback free agent, that could be a really good team as soon as next year. You were saying McLaurin's become a top 10 wide receiver. He's been a top 10 wide receiver. He's coming off.
I just don't think he's gotten the attention because he's been playing in Washington.
No, it's for real. But from a fantasy perspective, he is so consistent. He had one of the sneakiest, greatest wide receiver rookie years of all time. It's actually bizarre. Like nobody really talked about the guy. He is a stud. He's not just a stud in the making. He's a stud currently.
You know, how much credit should go to Riverboat, man? I thought he did a fantastic job, like building the Panthers. They weren't awesome when he got there. A couple injuries and retirements, then a down year. But he's kind of starting in Washington what he did in Carolina. And Washington can definitely, they're an interesting team to see develop in the next 3 or 4 years. They're already head and shoulders above where they were last year with no personnel changes.
He's already, quote unquote, announced his retirement for the end of the year. So that's concerning. But hopefully something turns for the better with this cancer. Because, it'd be really sad if he couldn't take that team forward. I do think Carolina made the right choice, weirdly, and going to Rule, because I think Rule is just going to be an incredible coach for the rest of his tenure. But what an embarrassment of riches. I said it earlier. You move on from Ron Rivera to Rule. They could have won with Rivera. Yeah. Now they got this guy. I mean, I love Rivera. I hope he keeps coaching.
Yeah, so do I. Met him in the airport once, but Rule's been surprisingly impressive because that's a defense it's a no-name defense pretty much. So they've exceeded all my expectations over there.
Yep.
So what we were kind of touching on earlier, guys. I just want to get your feedback. Guys teams that are not in the playoffs this year, who makes it? So who could potentially slide in? So for me, obviously I'm saying the Raiders are one team that are not currently in the AFC that will make it by the season's end. I think they're going to just jump Baltimore, and I think there's going to be a couple losses up top if that were the magic number. Vikings in the NFC. I know you're going to be pessimistic there, but they got a favorable schedule going forward. I think they won 4 out of 5. You got to stay healthy, keep Dalvin running. But those are two teams for me that could slide in that are not currently making it.
Yeah, 4 out of 5. Guess who the one was? The Dallas fucking Cowboys. Give me a break. The Vikings, they're showing really promising strides from the future. They came in. God, you see their draft last year? I posted in our group chat the other day. They drafted 17 guys. It's an NFL record. 17 players in the draft last year. Without a preseason, this is a team that I think their season kind of got robbed from them. With the preseason, with the full training camp, I think they could have come out a lot better than they did. Their schedule for the first 5 weeks was just fucking brutal. But I don't think they're going to get it done though, because as good as they are, they can beat the Packers, but then they can lose to the Falcons and the Cowboys. So I can't buy into this team. And they got a rough schedule. They play both the Saints and the Bucs down the stretch.
Yeah, I'm not convinced on the Bucs though.
Yeah, for me, when you ask me this question, I look at who's going to fall out of it more than who's going to get into it, because both are necessary. I think you both make some very good points. I think other than Washington, who's going to jump the Giants by the end of the year, that's kind of a cop-out answer and not really what you were asking. I think Baltimore's schedule falls out or is a cakewalk. I think they're going to get in, who isn't in right now. I think the Colts are going to fall out. They got a sneaky hard schedule. And again, older veteran quarterbacks wear out throughout the season. So I don't even think we've seen the worst of Phillip Rivers, which should scare every Colts fan. So if you're looking for some movement, I think the Colts fall out and the Ravens slide in.
I love that actually. The Colts schedule down the stretch is ridiculously hard. Not hard, sneaky hard is the right word. They play Houston twice. Houston always plays them tough, and they play the Jags. Laugh all you want. The Jags are 1-0 against the Colts this year. And
Minshew will be back. Minshew will be back. They have a top 5. We'll say top 10 running back. Dude, James Robinson is one of the most impressive aspects of this year. That guy just keeps going. Every time people think he's going to be is going to show a sign of downturn, he's not.
he's going to be a top 10 running back in the league for a long time. So they do have enough talents, especially when Minshew comes back, to upset the Colts. So I like that.
Well, yeah. Oh, shaping the AFC playoff picture. Believe it or not, when the Browns play the Ravens on Monday Night Football, not this week but next week, it's gonna have a huge impact, man. Both of those teams could be sitting 10-6 by season's end. The AFC is going to be tight when it comes.
I'm really hoping Bane walks into that stadium and then the entire field drops out. If you're asking me personally.
Yeah. Oh man, fuck the Browns.
All right, guys, let's get this wrapped up. Week 12 was another fucking wild week. So many upsets. I hope it rolls on. Football week's not even over. It's Tuesday, and the football week from last week is not even over. Steelers are going to crush the Ravens tomorrow. But hey, thank you so much for joining us, guys. Have a great night.
See ya. Who the fuck is? Are we? Nah, we're still live.
And the pod.